everybody, it's Carla from Casey Creates. I'm doing something a little random today. Excuse me. I went in the front yard and there's these pitiful little apple trees and they had a few little apples, but sometimes I like to pretend I'm doing something back in the primitive time or prairie days maybe, and so I went and picked the very few little apples that were there. This is our poorly little apple tree in the front yard, and I think I've already picked the very few that were left. I'm trying to see if there's one more that I can show you. It hasn't been very well maintained, so I don't really know. I guess it probably could use a good pruning. This is the first year we've lived at this place, but I thought it was really cool. Here's a teeny tiny one. Oh, it just fell off. Let's see if I can find him. Here he is. There's a little teeny tiny one that fell off. So I like to pretend like I'm picking things in the wilderness and making food out of it. So I'm going to go peel up a few apples and make something with them. But I don't see any more on this tree. But I thought I'd show you the tree anyway. It's almost more like a bush. And I remember growing up and we would get the really sour crab apples and call ourselves cooking something with them. Well, you know, apples aren't the beautiful reds and greens that we get in our produce department where they've been, you know, hybrid and done all kinds of things to make them beautiful. They really are like this when you pick them on just a random wild tree. So I picked these and I thought I would peel them. They've been scrubbed, but still look at how how sad they are. Poor little apples. And then I also have a knife here that's I suppose I should have brought my cutting board over, but I don't know what we're gonna find inside of these, but I want to peel them and slice them and bake something with you. I do love to bake, and I especially love making pies. So I thought, well, maybe I'll make some little mini apple tarts, and I'll even bake them in my cast iron skillet. Make it even a little more rustic that way. And I don't know what we're going to find when we cut these apples up, and I think I already said that, but we used to play outside so much when we were growing up. One of our favorite things was to get the apples out of the tree, and Mom would let us turn them into applesauce. If you grew up on a farm and you had to do that, you know, put up fruits and vegetables, it's probably nothing exciting to you. But I think it's really fun. It makes you feel close to nature, and then you get to eat what you created. Now I did scrub these up really well on the outside, but the nice thing about picking fruit right off the tree in a wild setting is they weren't sprayed with anything. So though I would still wash them, I don't have to worry that there's wax or pesticides or anything on them. I thought it was really interesting that this tree hardly had any apples on it. And it's really true, if you don't groom your trees, if you don't cut them back and prune them, they don't bear a lot of fruit. And so, you know, it takes you to that thought of how you have to have, the cutting away in order to have, you know, a bountiful produce. It's kind of one of those life lessons. It's a very biblical lesson, I know that. So I'm gonna, this one's so tiny I almost want to ditch it, but I'm not going to, because I think back in the day, if this is all they could count on for food, they would use every bit they possibly could. I want to learn how to recognize like greens that you can eat, and I'd love to learn how to recognize mushrooms that are safe to eat. Of course, I wouldn't dare do it on my own, but I do like mushrooms. My family doesn't though, so I guess it wouldn't help to go foraging for bunches of mushrooms unless I was with somebody that could actually use them. I'm using even an old antiquated knife here. You know how you have a knife that it's old, but it's like your favorite one to use? That's this one. So I'm just going to peel these up and wash them off again and put a little bit of lemon on them. Just fresh squeeze of lemon. And we'll see what we can come up with these wild apples. So I got them all washed up, and I'm just cutting them into small little slices in random little pieces too. I'm not trying to do it real pretty, because I really like feeling like it's just kind of a primitive little way of using up our natural things we find in nature. So they're all chopped up into small little pieces, and then I just have a half a lemon I'm using to help them not discolor, but I'm also using it to brighten up the flavor. I haven't even tasted it because, to be honest, I'm a little scared. Isn't that terrible? We pick stuff fresh off the tree and we trust it more if it comes off the produce in the grocery store. I'm gonna try it. Let's try a piece. Oh, it's actually pretty good. There's a little more lemon on there. Might as well use it up. And then in this dish I have some flour, like about a tablespoon of flour, about 3 tablespoons of sugar, and a teaspoon of cinnamon, and a pinch of salt. I'm going to pour that all in there and mix it up. Oops. So that when I put them in my little pie crusts, they won't get too juicy, I hope. I hope that little bit of flour will just help thicken it up a little bit. And they might be a bit tart because I don't want to over sugar them. So we will see how they come out. If they're not sweet enough, I can always drizzle some icing on the top. So that's the apples now all clean, washed, and seasoned and ready to go in the pie crust. So I'm going to make the pie crust, and in this bowl I have real butter, salt, flour. Is that it? Yeah, butter, flour, and salt, because I think back in the day they wouldn't use shortening anyway, so they'd use fresh farm butter, right? So this is fresh butter, but not straight from the farm. And if you can notice, I'm using my whisk as like a pastry cutter. It works really well. So I'm just cutting the butter in. They always say make it look like you have like pea-sized crumbs, but I don't know, I just go until it's nice and crumbly, like so. Can you see that? Getting nice and crumbly. And then I have some ice water that I'm going to put in until it all comes together. Some people use food processors for their pie crust. I think it also helps you not overhandle it and make it tough, but I'm a potter and I love anything that's dough related. So I'm going to use my hands. Well, actually for now I'll use my spoon. I'm going to use about a tablespoon of water, and I'll just use the spoon that I stirred the apples with to get it somewhat combined. And it looks like it's going to need about 1 more tablespoon of water, icy cold water. And pie crust is not something I'm really good at. Sometimes it's tough, or sometimes I add too much water, and it would probably help if I measured, but I'm just not that kind of girl. I don't like to follow recipes a lot. So I think this has come together nicely. So I'm going to put it in a ball and wrap it in some wax paper and let it rest for just a minute while I get my rolling pin, which is right here, and I'm going to roll out little circles of pie crust and make little mini apple pies. So I do have all kinds of fancy little gadgets and things that I like to use from like Pampered Chef or the kitchen store, Sur La Table, you know, the fun little crimping tools and things. But for today, like I said, I kind of want to stay on my little primitive journey. So I've cut, let's see if I can move this over so you can see a little better. I've cut little circles out, and I'm just going to add a little bit of apple in the middle. Oh boy, maybe my apples are too big. So what I'm going to do is, I was going to fold them in half, but I think I'll just make them round circle pies, so there's enough apple inside. And I'm just going to use a fork to crimp the edges. And I do think this is really short pie crust, which is good actually. I think that'll make it nice and flaky. And I'm just going to lay them in my cast iron skillet. I've never baked them in the cast iron skillet before, but it is supposed to make a nice even heat, so we'll see how they do in here. And again, I'm just going to put some in the middle and cover it up and crimp it. So you can see, if you're a potter and you like working with clay, pie crust would be a fun thing to work with. I'm a little awkward here because I'm trying to do it with the right angle so you can see it in the camera. So these are by no means going to be super pretty, but hopefully they'll be super tasty. It's that time of evening on Sunday where everyone's kind of had a big lunch and they grab a snack, and then around 8 o'clock everybody's looking for something sweet. So if these taste decent with my wild apples, I will have something to offer them in the way of a dessert. I have a feeling they're going to taste just fine. So, though I have huge boys that would probably eat 3 or 4 of these with no trouble. So I'm going to keep on making as many as I can, and we'll see how they turn out. Let me get that turned around so I can crimp it a little better than that. These would actually be good piled in a bowl, 2 or 3 in a bowl with a big scoop of vanilla ice cream. That would be speaking my husband's language for sure. He loves ice cream. So I'm going to get a few more of these cut out and created. So here they are. The first one certainly isn't very pretty, but hopefully it'll bake up and taste good. They always say, well, you do eat with your eyes first, but hopefully they'll look beautiful once they're finished. So I have them all ready to go in the oven, at least the first 4 anyway, and they're not exactly beautiful right now, but hopefully they'll taste good. And so I think I'm going to put them in the oven at about 375 and check them, make sure the bottoms don't get too brown, and we'll see what our mini apple pies turn out to be like. So I just cleaned up and the pies are in the oven, so I'm going to keep an eye on them. I have my little enchanted cup here. This is just a cup when I was demoing in one of my classes, and I stuck a little twisty viney wood look handle on there. I don't really make my cups like this. I was just having fun, and it's fun for me to carry the enchanted theme that I like in my journals. Well, actually it actually started with my clay, and this isn't something I typically make, but I just thought I'd make a fun little cup for myself. So I'm going to have my cup of coffee here while the pies bake, and I'll be back to show you the finished product hopefully soon. So here is the finished product, everybody. I'm about to go let my husband have a bite. They turned out really flaky, and you see the apples? Oh my goodness, it's steaming hot. It's probably too hot to try. There's a big scoop of Haagen-Dazs ice cream and some whipped cream on top. And I think I just have to have a bite, just because. Oh, it's just the right sweetness too. Okay, well, wild apples seasoned up right with the best flaky crust and ice cream. It's a great Sunday evening dessert. So thanks for watching with me and baking with me, and I hope you might give it a try. And everyone have a great night. Bye-bye.